Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce Ng. Joyce, we have so much to do today, so many emails, dozens or more than a dozen.
Or just dozen?
Like almost 2
Dozen?
dozen, maybe a little less,
Baker's
Baker's
dozen?
dozen.
Yeah.
Emailed at slugfest@goldderby.com. But we're not going to start with emails, Joyce. We're going to start with Killers of Flower Moon. It's finally here after months and months.
More like years. Years. Let's be real. Years. Remember how pressed everyone was last summer when it was being delayed and people didn't believe it because they didn't want to believe it?
Yes, it was on background. It was reported. Remember, that was a
Yeah,
whole
that's a
thing.
real thing on background. It doesn't need to be on the record.
A lot
On
of
background.
journalism 101
Yeah.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's finally coming out for real on Friday. I got tickets to see it Saturday. I'm seeing it a third
You're
time.
going to see it for a third time.
In
You're going to
theaters.
spend 10 and a half hours of your life seeing this movie.
For a movie that's, I'm like, it's good, but it's not like
Well,
good.
okay, wait. Also, what time are you seeing it on Saturday?
Well, I'm going with my old friends who we've seen a lot of Martin Scorsese movies with, including The Irishman, which we saw when it came out. We're gonna go in the afternoon. I think like
Wow.
a 3:30 maybe it is, and then go to dinner after it. So dinner will be about 8:00.
Yeah, I mean that's fine for a dinner, not a super late dinner, but that's still a large part of your day.
It is. I don't know how people would see it at night, but I guess we'll find out when it comes
I've talked about this with someone in the industry who this was a couple of weeks ago, who had not seen it yet, and their concern was exactly that. Like, I want to see this movie, but not at night because I want to go to bed at like 10, 11.
I was talking to someone who also is in the industry, and they were saying maybe they'll have to take off an afternoon from work and go see it at like noon and try to do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've only seen it once. I have no plans to see it again in the theater, but when we saw it together the first time for you, the only time for me, back in June, it was in the morning. And that is great because it's 3.5 hours long, but you still have the rest of the afternoon and the day to yourself. But that's also not feasible for most people.
When I saw it a second time, I went at 5:00. Even that felt a little late because by the time it was over,
yeah,
it was almost 9.
Well, so I was also talking about this with one of my friends in real life, a normie who has no plans to see it.
Right.
But we were talking about like how it's kind of like a 5 or 6 hour ordeal for someone to make this effort to see this movie. You know, because you have the movie's 3.5 hours, you have to build in commuting both ways, and then you have like 30 minutes of previews.
Yeah.
So.
And I was reading an interview. Marty Scorsese has been doing a lot of press, Joyce.
Well, he's the only one who can. I mean, props to him. 80 years old. He has to carry all the marketing on his back without his actors.
So I was thinking of this. Really, I still think he would be doing all of this because the only actor I think who would be doing a lot more would be Lily. I just don't think Leo and Robert De Niro
but like
would be doing much.
I'm saying like he literally is the only person who can do this.
Right. But I feel like he would be doing it anyway.
He would, but like he has no help. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Okay. I see. Big interview with him in the New Yorker. And he was talking about the original script was over 200 pages.
So like this is one of their talking points this season about the rewrites of the script. So
he said, this is to Richard Brody, who actually was at the screening I went to when I saw it a second time. So I could say I was in the room when Richard Brody got to see Flower Moon. The first 2 hours, we were moving along. The second 2 hours, boy, this is getting a little long in the tooth, as they say. It was just getting to be, we really ran out of energy in the story. And I wanted to tell more and more of the story. And I wanted to do more digressions, to go off in tangents, so to speak, what seem like tangents, but are not. So then they were like, oh, we're going to change the whole thing. And they've talked about this a lot.
They've talked about this a lot. Like Eric Roth talked about this, I think, a year ago. When that was when it was revealed that it won't be from the POV of the FBI, and Leo was not playing Tom White.
Yes.
So
the issue with this, and we've talked about this before in terms of like the expectations you're setting by saying a lot of these things, certainly with like the Lily Gladstone performance and the depth of great performance. But again, I think if people are like, oh, it's like when they see this movie this weekend, I think there will be people being like, she's not in it as much as I expected based on what people have said, right? Like that kind of thing. And so we've gotten this too at the premiere, the Osage language consultant, Joyce. I know you saw this too, Christopher Kate, Had a really, really thoughtful, I thought,
Great,
critique.
great answer. And I love that the Hollywood reporter let him speak on the red carpet uninterrupted and share his thoughts, which you don't really get a lot on red carpets, especially when it's just kind of like move along, quick soundbite.
Yeah. And I would say I thought this was really, really solid. And I don't even think, I mean, who knows? I mean, if Martin Scorsese will be asked about this in the future, but I actually think he would probably agree with a lot of this, because I don't think I think the goal of the movie is said in this comment. And I think if you were listening to a lot of the press about, Molly being the heart and soul of Lily Gladstone, maybe you would have been a little thrown. But anyway, here's the quote. He said, "As an Osage, I really wanted this to be from the perspective of Molly and what her family experienced. But I think it would take an Osage to do that," he said. Martin Scorsese not being Osage, I think he did a great job representing our people, but this history is being told almost from the perspective of Ernest Burkhart, the Leonardo DiCaprio character, and they kind of give him this conscience and kind of depict that there's love. But when somebody conspires to murder your entire family, that's not love. That's not love. That's just beyond abuse. I think in the end, the question that you can be left with is, how long will you be complacent with racism? How long will you go along with something and not say something, not speak up? How long will you be complacent? And I think that's because this film isn't made for an Osage audience. It was made for everybody, not Osage. For those that have been disenfranchised, they can relate. But for other countries that have their acts and their history of oppression, this is an opportunity for them to ask themselves this question of morality. And that's how I feel about the film. Now, having read a lot of Martin Scorsese interviews, I think that's exactly what he was trying to bring forth. I don't think that's an incorrect read of the film at all.
No, it's a very well considered, nuanced take. And obviously this went viral yesterday on Tuesday. The premiere was Monday, and a lot of, or not a lot, but like some reactions to it was just like, oh, this is a white savior movie. It's not. It's basically, this is also something that the movie reckons with at the end. Like Martin Scorsese makes an effort
directly
address telling the story through a white lens. Like he understands that he is not, and he's talked about this in the press too, like he knows he is not the right person to tell this story, but he still wants this story to be told, and this is the best way he can tell it. And this movie is not supposed to be the definitive piece of art about this tragedy, right? But it's going to be the first major piece of art about this tragedy, and he wants it out there. And like Chris's response and everything, it's really about how this movie shows what art can achieve and the limitations of art. Like not every artist can do everything. Like we all like to believe that, like Scorsese's the GOAT, like he's the master, he's the best. And like he did really make a really great picture about this. But, as Chris says, like he's not Osage. And this movie is not made for the Osage audience. It's made for non-Osage people, and it's to shine a light on this atrocity and what it means to turn this atrocity into art. Like this is all in the movie. And also, like history, like, and the way we tell history, it's like it's empowered, it's told by people who are empowered to tell it, right? And it's usually white people throughout history, white men. So we've had that forever, basically. So it's like, hopefully maybe like from this movie we'll have in the future like actual Osage filmmakers tell this story in their way, from the perspective of an Osage. Like it's true what Chris says, that the movie is primarily from Ernest's point of view. Like it's really about his character being corrupted by his uncle, played by Robert De Niro. And yes, he does have to enact murder and murder his wife's family. It's largely from his POV. So like all of that is true. And it's and I think it's also important to know that like these are just Chris's complicated feelings about the movie, which he says. And he never says like the movie is bad. Like I think he likes the movie and appreciates what Martin Scorsese did in the movie, and he's just pointing out you know, just the limitations of what he can tell. And I also appreciate that, you know, he's not being muzzled by like Apple or Paramount or whoever to just like fall in line and just rave the movie to high heavens. And it's like, oh, Martin Scorsese is the perfect person to tell this story. Like he did a perfect job, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I was like, I thinking too, I mean, I forget where I read in one of the interviews with him because he's done so many interviews. It's hard to
So many.
hard to keep up. But I
And
think
like it's like, yeah, obviously he's talking about like the same things in a lot of them, giving similar answers, and then you just conflate all of them.
So one of the things, two things I thought in this: A, I don't disagree with him saying that they give Ernest some kind of conscience and that kind of depict that there's love. I would, the only thing I would say, not pushback on that, but I've seen Scorsese talk about this, and also like members of Molly and Ernest's family, it feels like, have said that they felt there was love, and that Scorsese said that was one of the things that sparked him when they had one of their big initial meetings with a lot of the members of the Osage community. They said that like that was something they had talked about, that Molly and Ernest did love each other even through the whole thing. And so like I can understand not thinking that that's a depiction of love, obviously, but I also think like based on the available information, there maybe was, and that's how kind of he decided to take it. And then the other thing was like, certainly, I honestly think it might have been, I was trying to think, it might have been when like he talked to GQ and Timothy Chalamet. Did you watch that this week? Because they did an ad
Of
for
course I did.
Chanel. It's great. Timothy Chalamet, great. He should host, I think. He was so cute, I thought. Really fun.
Yeah, and then the entire GQ profile.
Might have been the GQ profile, but he was talking about like how basically like it's basically like a lot of his stuff like depiction in his endorsement. He was talking about how like he was told like recently about like a faction of people who love Wolf of Wall Street at the New York press screening, and then like hated it because they were a lot like Martin Scorsese wasn't being like, these guys are bad guys. And I still have those conversations. Like there are still people who don't understand that movie 15 years later, and this is the same kind of thing where I think
years
like
later.
what's that?
10 years later.
10 years later. It's the same kind of thing with this, I feel like, where it's like, yes, like you're watching Leo and all these people do these terrible things, and everybody is complicit because they're all allowing it to happen. And I think the idea of the movie is for you to say, like, I mean, like Christopher kind of says here, is to be like watching this and be like, why is this okay? And why was I allowing this? Like, and how
and why did
complacent
we never talk about it? Right.
I think that is the goal of the movie. I will say this quote, like you said, went viral because I think people were hoping that it was like a member of the movie slamming the movie, and then
he's not slamming it at all.
No, but it also gave people who were like on the fence. I saw like at least 2 tweets where I was just like, no, but you're just going to use this to like get your like shots in because you want to like kind of bring down, you don't like, they either didn't like the movie or like kind of virtue signaling.
And it's like, it's kind of like saying like, see, someone who's involved in a movie doesn't like it either. It's like, no, he didn't say that at all.
Right.
Because also we got to stop looking at like movies as just like black and white and like good or bad. Like we should have complicated feelings about movies and discuss them, and like I may like something that you don't like and vice versa, and you know, it doesn't mean like either of us is right or wrong. It's just subjective. And then he also has this additional perspective from it because he is Osage.
He was also the Scorsese. I think it was in. I really think the Chalamet interview was great. No offense to Richard Brody, who also did a great interview. But man, Chalamet really killing it. But I think they talked a little about moralizing and art in that as well, and how it's like nowadays, like people want moralizing art.
Yes, they
Scorsese
want.
Doesn't do that.
Yeah, they want to be like
told things are bad,
told how to feel, and like handheld, and it's like being told like so and so is good and so is bad. Because the other thing, one of the other reactions to like Chris's quote was that the read was like, oh, like they're making Leo's character Ernest into a sympathetic character, and like they don't do that at all.
Yeah, when
like he's a completely pathetic moron.
He sucks. Like he sucks. And I was like, the character sucks, and like is like, you're not into, I don't think you're rooting for that guy at all.
No, not at all. Like he's a total weasel. He has no, he's completely spineless. And that's actually kind of like why I think Molly falls for him a little bit, because he seems so completely non-threatening, you know?
Well, I also think he's so honest in his like is not misery. What's the word I'm looking for? He's just like very much like he's not trying to pretend he's anything other than what he is.
Right.
Like,
And that doesn't she has a line, right, where she's like, oh, he's like good looking. Like basically like he's stupid, but he's good looking.
yeah,
Something
I mean, honestly, yes. And it's like that stuff actually sells why she likes him, right?
yeah.
He's Leonardo. It's like, yeah, I will believe that you think Leonardo DiCaprio is good looking. Yeah, I got that. Even with his giant head, he's still pretty good looking.
Listen, our
So
heads get bigger when we get old, so
I will say, like, this is a good year for movies. I think in general, we've seen a lot of we both saw a lot of movies over the last week. You saw way more than me,
so
but
many movies.
so many. And I would say, like, a lot of these are great movies this year, because they're like not moralizing movie. They're not like telling you what to think. From Oppenheimer to like Poor Things, I think there's a lot of good movies this year where the directors and the filmmakers are like going for nuance rather than like thud and dull points.
Yeah. Um, I'm like, well, I think like this weekend, like opening weekend for Flower Moon, I think, obviously all the cinephiles and Marty stands will go out in full force to see it. And I would expect the majority of the reaction to be positive.
Yeah, I'll be curious. I actually am very curious. I'm excited to come back next week and tell you what my friends thought, because like they're not the biggest moviegoers anymore. We used to be a lot. We used to go all the time. Now they are old and they watch stuff at home.
Yeah, I mean, none of my normie friends honestly have any plans to see this movie.
So like I'll be curious to see what like a real audience thinks of this.
Yeah, that's like, someone who has like no skin in the game, So
Joyce, you were goofing on. We saw American Fiction yesterday. We weren't not going to talk about that in detail, but while afterwards we were chatting in the street, and you were goofing on me because I immediately made a change to my actor picks.
well, let's backtrack for a second. Because after we saw Maestro 2 weeks ago, yeah, you put in Bradley Cooper as I predicted. And then
Bradley.
You would drop Leo.
Yes.
And then I also said in 10 to 14 days, you would put Leo back in.
And so are we at 14 days then?
Yeah, I mean, it's 2 weeks. So, and so you did do that. And American Fiction, great film.
So good.
And you also put Jeffrey in. So that means you have to drop someone else.
So here's what I did. I put Leo in. I put Jeffrey up in second. I still have Bradley winning. And I have Coleman Domingo, and I dropped Paul Giamatti. I just think one of these guys is going to miss. And while The Holdovers is absolutely, from what we've seen and heard people talking about, a stronger movie, certainly, than Rustin. A lot of support for Holdovers out there. A lot of boomers and a lot of young people who want to be boomers, it seems like, are into this movie. But I just think that it's easy to imagine Paul Giamatti not getting in, and then Colm Domingo getting in, even though he might be a lone nominee for that movie. And I think it could just be like because people love him so much, and because it's like a historical biopic that has in the past kind of like led to more awards juice than just a conventional drama. I'm going to keep him in, and I put Leo in instead of Paul Giamatti.
Yeah, I made no changes. I do think those are the top 6.
Yeah, well, they're definitely the top 6 in the odds. I think
yes.
so. I mean, that's
like so like I think it'll be kind of. I think maybe is like Andrew Scott in 7th, probably.
I feel like yes, but I feel like let me look. Giamatti's in 5th. Wright is in 6th somehow. So I feel like once people start seeing American Fiction, Wright will go way up.
Yeah, like I have Jeffrey in, and I dropped Coleman. I mean, I did this before I saw either of them. I've seen both of them now.
Yes.
And I can see Paul missing. I've considered dropping Paul to have both Jeffrey and Coleman in.
So one of the reasons I was also dropped Paul instead of like Coleman, and you're not to make too much of a big, like tell me if you think this, like I was like, the character Jeffrey Wright plays in American Fiction is not too dissimilar from the type of character Paul Giamatti plays in The Holdovers. And I think there's room for both of them to get in, certainly. But I think if you're putting those two actors and performances and their narratives next to each other, I just think Jeffrey has an edge on that. And I just feel like not the worst thing, but like the fact that the character is like similarly curmudgeonly and goes through like a emotional kind of reckoning or whatever helps. It just feels like that movie is going to, even if Holdovers gets more nominations than American Fiction, I think American Fiction is a stronger movie. And I just felt like the two of them together, they could both get in, but I felt like maybe they wouldn't. That was why I dropped them.
I definitely can see people viewing Paul's performance as kind of, you know, not surprising, I guess is the word. I don't know. Whereas they might be surprised by Jeffrey's performance because he's very funny in it and he gets to do more.
I think he does. I mean, overall, we don't need to talk about that movie too much, but I was just like, Paul has a great scene or two, great few scenes, I think, towards the end of the film of Holdovers.
Yeah.
When he meets, it's one when they go to Boston. I thought that scene when he's got like, he meets an old friend. I thought that was a great moment. And then later at the very end, there's like a great scene.
Yeah.
But Jeffrey, I think, has the whole thing throughout and gets to show a little more.
He gets to be very funny. And then it's like, it's kind of, I feel like he gets like more range, I guess, in the performance, whereas Paul's is probably more steady throughout.
And it's a different Academy, obviously, but are we sure? And Jeffrey Wright has obviously never been nominated, but are we sure like there's like we got to nominate Paul Giamatti for Best Actor after doing him wrong for Sideways push from the Academy? I'm not sure that there is.
I mean, that's never been my reasoning for predicting.
Not yours, but I think that's like probably broadly a lot of people's reasoning. I do think that.
I don't think anyone even remembers that because it's almost 20 years ago now.
I think people do remember, but I don't think Academy members remember it at all. I don't think they care.
And no, that's what I mean. Like, I don't think any people in the Academy remember that from 20 years ago. And then anyway, they gave nom the next year for Cinderella Man.
So I put Leo back in, which I mean, I'm sure David L, our frequent emailer and commenter on YouTube, is going to be thrilled because I think he said I was a moron for taking him out. So now he's back in, Leo.
I mean, we knew this was going to happen. You're just very fickle and very hasty with your feelings.
Well, it's that, yes. And I just feel like one of these big I think one of these big names are going to miss. And I just was like, it's like trying to guess what you're trying to like pick against.
I mean, someone
like,
from the six is going to miss.
So. Yeah, but I think one of like the bigger, like I think if Coleman Domingo missed, I think people would be like sad, but like also, like we said, it's a lone nominee or whatever. You know what I mean? It's not like, it wouldn't be shocking. But I think if Paul Giamatti or like Leo missed, people would be stunned because I think it's just going to be like, those movies are going to be much stronger, obviously. But I do think like Paul Giamatti or Leo could miss based on this list. So I'm going to keep Paul Giamatti out for now and put Leo back in.
I think I'm going to hold on Paul for now because I'm not as hasty as you. But I think his chances will really depend on a lot on how strong the Holdovers is throughout the season. Like if it's, I mean, it could win original screenplay, you know, and it could win supporting actress. So I think it'll depend on a lot on that. Like if it shows some like weaknesses, I definitely can see him missing. And I think like I don't feel great about Jeffrey because, you know, as we've said before, like Orion, a lot of trouble, like MGM, a lot of trouble in recent years getting acting nominations.
So that's definitely a concern. I felt like that too. But having watched the movie, I'd also argue they haven't had a movie that's this broad appealing on that list. You know what I mean? Like they should have gotten in other people. Certainly like Licorice Pizza and certainly like House of Gucci or Women Talking. Like there's a lot they left on the table in theory. But none of those movies are as watchable and down the middle as this one.
I think this movie would have a better word of mouth.
Yes. So
they also pushed back the release to December,
which I actually think is maybe in this case smart because they're already like we saw it this week. They put out a trailer this week too, which we could talk about later. We actually have an email about that trailer, so we'll talk about it later. I think that's smart because that gives them a lot of runway to start screening it. It's going to be at a lot of regional festivals too, I think, coming up. So I just feel like that gives them a lot of like, that actually is not it's not like a Bikeriders getting pumped off the calendar and then still fingers crossed coming out this year. We're going to move it from December 1st, but we're going to still try to release it in time for the Oscars.
It'll just be, limited Christmas. Why January?
If the strike, I guess, ends like in a week. I just have a hard time believing that's going to come out. But so I was like, I agree. That's a reticence I have too. But I'm also like, I'm not going to bet against the movie. And I also think Jeffrey Wright has such a good narrative that people, and he's worked with so many people over the last 5 years.
He's also someone, I think, one of the reasonings for Coma is like, oh, people love him and want to see him nominated, right? And I'm like, you could say the same thing for Jeffrey, like, highly respected veteran, never nominated, I'm
trying to think if I did anything else with Flower Moon. I still have Lily. I still have De Niro, obviously. Love him. But
you
saw
didn't move him or Lily up.
I didn't move De Niro up. And
you do so after you see it a third time this weekend.
I don't think so, because I just think it's a tough group. And I still have I think I moved Lily up to second though. Like everybody else. Only because
did you like abandon Carrie, or you moved her down?
I just moved her down. I did abandon someone from this category. We could talk about it later, I guess. I think I did everything else. I might have put it. Did I put it back in editing, Flower Moon? I think I did.
Well, you also talked to some Flower Moon people this week, so you gotta predict it for more awards now.
Well, I talked to the casting director, Ellen Lewis, and then Renee Haynes. Ellen Lewis has been working with Martin Scorsese since New York Stories, Joyce, so that's a long time. And Renee Haynes is a real expert or prolific and works almost not exclusively, but does so much for Indigenous and First Nation actors, and like has cast movies like Prey and Twilight, New Moon, and worked on like Yellowstone for their Native American actors and stuff. So she's got like a deep Rolodex and experience with that. And they were just lovely.
Cast, obviously the focus on the cast is like the three central characters, right? The three leads basically, but the rest of the cast is really great. And I'm not talking about like Jesse Plemons and Brendan Fraser. Like all the petty criminals are great.
do you have an ensemble for SAG?
I do. We talked about this. I still have it there, but I can totally see it missing. Like it feels like it just be one of those films that just gets the 3 individual nominations and not ensemble.
I have it missing, but I really want to put it in because I was just like, man, it's such a great. There's so many like literally like first time actors in it. That's the thing I'm like reticent, because I'm like, I feel like SAG like values like a lot of famous people just thrown together in a cast, but this is like you said, there's like 2-3 famous people. Lily Gladstone, who I think a lot of people obviously know now, but is not like super famous, or at least not yet. And then a lot of like first time actors who are just amazing. So good in this that they just.
I know, but like those people, they're not going to be officially part of the nomination because they don't have their title cards.
Right.
So they'll just get a certificate.
Right. So I was like, but that was great. And I talked to Jack Fisk, Joyce, the legendary
production designer. Did you tell him to tell Skylar that I love the Babysitters Club?
I didn't. Wow. And I would have. We talked about this in Slack. I would have picked Orange County for my Skylar Fisk
because that totally would be your reference point for her. But real ones know that it's the Babysitters Club.
Jack Fisk did so much work in this movie, and he said a lot of stuff like a thing I love about Flower Moon and a lot of movies this year is they look like real movies. Joyce, I'm like back into the idea of movies should be real movies, not TV movies. And Flower Moon is a real movie because they just went out there and he built the whole town and built houses. And he was like, it makes it so much better because the actor's just on the set. And you're like, it's the set is the house. You live in this house. And he did so much research and they found so many, like, if you think like it's stuff that you don't even really maybe think about. But remember in Flower Moon, there's like so many old cars. Found like almost 150 old cars.
And, well, yeah. I mean, that's, I'm not surprised by the old cars because I feel like we see that in a lot of period pieces anyway. But I think like the living spaces and the quarters are very, I don't know, lived in, I guess you can say.
The other thing he did, he talked about, there's a great New York Times, if you're a big fan of Jack Fisk and you don't want to watch me interview him, which I would not blame you, though it was nice, there's a great New York Times profile on him. And he talked about how they even, down to the dirt, they like tried to make it appropriate to the era, of the ground. So it looked like it
So
looked.
they what, like decayed it to 100 years ago.
Well, he was like a lot of it was like like going down a layer on the soil, and then also like looking at how it looked in photos and figuring out how much it should look like in like black and white photos than how it looked in like color and stuff. It's just like fascinating. Every like little tiny detail, just completely like, thought through
It's
and
kind of
done.
wild that he only has 2 nominations.
And like, I don't even think he's gonna win this year. I don't even know. I mean, like,
It's a tough one. I have Barbie winning that? I don't even know what I have.
I have Barbie winning because I was like, I actually think the production on in Barbie is incredible because it's like making it look like all of that stuff. I felt like it was like really cool and like handmade and playing off the soundstage and making it like leaning into the fact that you're on a soundstage rather than making it look like it's supposed to be real. I thought that was like really great.
Yeah, I have Barbie in first. I have Flower Moon in fourth.
I have it in third. But it would be great to see him get nominated, obviously. What else, Joyce, on Flower Moon? Anything else? Anything else you saw this week about it?
But I mean, just a ton of Marty stuff. He deserves a nice rest after this week. I think what are the box office projections?
I thought like 20 million, maybe.
Yeah, that's what, like 24 or something. Has it changed?
I haven't seen it change. If it got to 20, I think that would be pretty impressive for a 3 hour.
Yeah, that'd be
3.5
like
hour
a
movie.
big win. Yeah.
I'm actually less interested in the opening weekend and more curious about how it plays the legs, and then when they're actually going to put it on Apple.
What did I read where like we know it's like promised at least 45 days.
I thought that too. So if it's 45 days from now, that would be like around Thanksgiving, then it's on Apple. Is that right? Like, let me see.
Well, no.
Or December 1st, I guess. December 1st, right? 20.
I think they'll probably wait longer.
Yeah, that would be about like December 1st or December 8th to have it on Apple. But I don't think they're going to do that. I think it would be wait longer too.
Yeah, especially if it has good legs.
Yeah.
So remember how mad some people were when Barbie hit digital in September?
People get mad about the dumbest stuff, Joyce.
I know.
So
did you get
dumb.
your Barbie Blu-ray?
I've actually got it in my Amazon card. I didn't buy it yet.
Wow. Can you pre-order Oppie yet?
You can. I can't wait to do that. 3 discs, Joyce, including a 4K.
3 hours. The extra features are as long as the movie.
That's why I was like reticent. Honestly, this is why I was reticent to do the Barbie one, because I'm like, there's really not a lot of special. It's like 6 like Blu-ray, like DVD extras, like nothing crazy. And I'm like, man, I want like a commentary or something. But
we need to really bring back cast commentaries or just filmmaker commentaries. Doesn't have to be cast. Obviously, cast would be great, but that's not now. Definitely not now. Cast commentaries. But that's really been missing, especially in the streaming era.
There's a whole thing, just I love physical media. There's a whole thing recently.
Physical media is the greatest, and Best Buy, get out of here.
Best Buy went off physical media. Not great, Bob, but that's all right. Should we go to emails? I guess we have so many.
Sure.
You can email us at slugfest@goldderby.com. If we don't get to your email today, I will save it, I promise, and I will read it at another time. This one's from Ryan. Start with this one. Hi, Chris and Joyce. First of all, love the show. I enjoy Joyce's insistence on shoehorning references to tennis and the Olympics into the conversation, as well as Chris's many completely insane movie opinions. The Girl Next Door, one of the best films of 2004. Really? Really? Yeah, it was great. My question. Last year, we saw a couple of contenders dominate the season so completely that there was no point in even discussing their categories. Examples were Keo Kwan in supporting actor. I know he lost BAFTA, but still. And Avatar, The Way of Water for visual effects. Looking at the landscape for 2023, I don't see a contender in any category that is so obviously ahead that they will be positioned to sweep the year. I imagine Maestro is very likely going to win makeup, but even that I'm not 100% sure on. Who do you think could become a steamroller this year? That's from Ryan in San Antonio. Ryan,
you're probably the only person who appreciates my tennis and Olympics references. Yeah, we've kind of talked about this, right? Like nothing really seems super locked.
So the only one I was thinking, the only of what we can predict, the only one that I think is super locked, and actually the only one I think that will be locked for the whole time is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse for animated feature. I just feel like,
Yeah.
even with Boy and the Heron getting like really solid notices, I think people have already checked out on that category. They're like, Spider-Man was great, it made a ton of money, I like the first one, and that's it. I don't have to think about this anymore.
Yeah, it's like I think they're kind of lazy with that category too. Especially with the whole Academy voting for the winner.
And
I do agree about makeup. We've talked about this too for Maestro.
the other one I was thinking, and we can't predict this yet either, and who knows, I guess it might not even end up making it in, so it's hard to say. But documentary, I think if American Symphony is like there and Netflix is putting it out, that is definitely, I've not even seen it, but from it just, I feel like from every person I've talked to, that's like, especially in a year where there's maybe not like a lot of big documentaries or like buzzier ones, like compared to maybe years past so far, that feels like one that could steamroll too. But I don't even know if it'll make the short list, so who knows, I guess.
Yeah, we can't do any of the shortlist categories
Right.
yet. I don't know with like above the line categories. I mean, last week we ranked the ones we were most confident in, and we were not confident in any.
And I'm like less confident in them now for the top six. And
Me
even
too.
screenplay, I don't think I'm really confident either.
Oh,
So,
I'm not confident in any of the screenplays, either screenplay.
so what about visual effects? I feel like so it'll be maybe like there's not a lot of options. Oppenheimer, maybe. The Creator, probably. I feel like people were really impressed by the Creator, even though it kind of flopped. I still think that could be one that people are going to gravitate towards without Dune there. What else?
There could be, like an MCU movie getting in, like maybe Guardians.
Guardians or the Marvels?
Yeah, I don't think it would win though.
No.
So because they haven't given it to them. And yeah,
Aquaman, The Lost Kingdom?
is that still coming out?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that one.
No controversy with it at all.
Nothing wrong with that one. It's coming out totally clean.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I also know like not a lot of people are confident Oppie would even get into visual effects.
Now, I think it might now, though.
I think, yeah, I think I don't know about winning, but I think it can get in. But I don't know if it would steamroll. I don't think it would. So I don't know. That's another one that's not locked. I don't
we
really
could be changing our tune by the time the movie, like by the time we get to like nomination stuff. But I do feel like this year is a little more open than certainly years past.
And I hope it stays that way because, as you know, it's boring as fuck.
Oh,
when
so
we just
bad.
have steamrollers. Like it was great, very happy for Ki Kwan that he, had his comeback and he won the Oscar. But it was great when he lost to BAFTA. Like that was kind of exciting, even though you knew he was still going to win the Oscar.
I will say from what we've seen so far, and again, recency bias, the only actor I could see actually pulling a key is like Jeffrey Wright right now. I don't even have him winning.
You just saw the movie yesterday.
I don't even have him winning. I still have Bradley winning. But I'm just saying, like, of these people who are potentially nominated for actor and actress and supporting actor and supporting actress, I could see a world where he is just like the steamroller.
I mean, I already had him winning the Comedy Globe. Do you have him winning that?
I do.
First.
And I have him, I might have him winning SAG also.
Oh, I don't even know. I didn't touch SAG.
So I'm like, if he's going to win those, BAFTA maybe is tough. Like we know they're not as much of a reliable bellwether anymore, certainly. But I could see him going pretty far.
Well, the other thing about this season is obviously BAFTA has 6 slots and also half juried with noms, and now Globes have 6 too, on top of their split categories. And then Critics' Choice, who knows how many slots they'll have. So basically SAG is the only other like major precursor that's going to have 5 slots like the Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these precursors aren't really going to be helpful in like revealing something. So maybe snub wise, if like someone couldn't get in with 6 slots,
Actor is going to be really tough because, like you said, there's really 6 in contention, right?
Yeah.
So,
and then like Jeffrey and Paul will be in comedy at the Globes anyway. So
pretty funny. Let's see, next email here. This one's from Timothy. Longtime commenter, never posed a question until now, or question or perhaps points to ponder. First up, The Color Purple. I hope it works, but I have doubts. Meryl Streep voice. West Side Story worked. Cats, not so much. I think it'll be a popular pick, not critical. Thoughts?
I mean, we haven't seen it, so
We saw The Killer this weekend at New York Film Festival, Joyce.
we did. I very much enjoyed The Killer.
Great time at the old movies.
Yeah, it's a dad movie. You know, I love a dad movie. 10-10.
Afterwards, I was talking to a couple people who had seen Color Purple.
Mhm.
Will not call them out by name, but they were both saying it's, again, like we said, good and like should be fine. So I look forward to seeing it, but I think it'll be more like West Side Story. I don't think it'll be, personally, I love West Side Story, so I don't think it'll be good. If it's as good as West Side Story, that's great, but I don't think it will be. It certainly will be better than Cats, which is like one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
That's not a high bar.
No. So I think it'll be like, those are pretty polar opposites in terms of musicals. I would say I think
it will easily clear the bar that Cats set.
I was saying, we've been talking about the cast. Fantasia certainly is a possibility, but like nothing. I just don't feel like people are. There's not even like whisper buzz going on for her at the moment, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I am in my game of telephone. I haven't personally talked to the people who have seen The Color Purple yet, but I've heard from people who have talked to these people, not you, that you like they loved like Danielle and Taraji, and you know, like Fantasia is good.
So one of the people I was talking to also were like, Danielle definitely felt like the one of this group.
The one,
and also,
she'll be the consensus.
And also was already like, apparently there's been like industry like praise for her already. You know, whispering industry praise, not on, maybe on the DL because of the strike or whatever. Who knows? But like
Andrea Riseborough style.
I don't know if it's like that, but I definitely think people are like more excited about her. Again, this is just like all anecdotal people off the record talking. So I would take
people who are not voting at all in these things.
Certainly not. But I would just say like that maybe is confirming the. I have Danielle in. I don't have Taraji in. I could see both of them getting in, but I think if only one gets in, it would be Danielle. That's my take on this.
But if they both get in, you feel like it'll be Danielle being the consensus.
I think maybe. Taraji. I think so. I think Danielle would be the Jamie Lee Curtis and Taraji would the Stephanie Sue.
I mean, I at one point had Color Purple getting 4 nominations, acting nominations. Now I have 2. So I don't think I'll put Coleman back in supporting actor.
Yeah.
I can see myself putting Fantasia back in. Like basically the only reason I dropped her is because her film is the only one that's not been widely seen yet.
Right. So, I think if I would put her in, once we see the film, I guess a little.
So what was your big change in actress? Who did you drop?
Well, I actually, so we could talk about coming up. Well, I dropped Sandra Huller, and I put in Annette Bening, and I dropped Anatomy of Fall from Best Picture, and I put in Zone of Interest, which you already had. So I have Past Lives still in, and you have both Zone of Interest and Anatomy.
I made no changes. Why are you abandoning Anatomy?
Well, I was just looking at it, and you could tell me if my stats are. When France announced that Taste of Things was going to be its nominee, or it's a submission, excuse me, and not Anatomy of Fall, Film Twitter was like outraged or whatever, even though Taste of Things was also a pretty great movie, and a lot of people were like, "It won't matter. It doesn't really matter. It won't matter." And Anatomy of Fall still get a lot of nominations. But then I was looking, and I was like, "Is it possible the last time foreign language or international film that wasn't the submission got nominated for Best Picture? Is it Cinema Paradiso or Il Postino? I mean, is that really the last one?
That was not submitted.
That was not submitted.
I don't know. We need a list of films that were submitted and like what wasn't.
So like I think Il Postino, this is I was looking at this and it was like not Italy's submission, but it was a Best Picture nominee, right? Like this is like back, we did this one on Oscars Playback. Yeah. And so
you're just using time against it.
Well, I'm not using time again. I'm using like history against it because it hasn't happened almost in 30 years. And so I don't think that doesn't mean it can happen. But I was like, I think Zone of Interest probably if you had to pick one of those two, I think the Zone of Interest would have the leg up because it'll be a submission, and also it's about a topic that obviously the awards community has embraced in the past. But I think the submission thing is even bigger. And I don't know, like I could have them both back in, but then I'd have to drop Past Lives probably, or The Color Purple if it's not any good. So I still have like, I just think that's the top 11 anyway. So I'm not like going crazy here. But then I took out Sandra Huller because I was like, she could easily get in, but I really wanted to put Annette Bening back in for Naiad. And I just didn't know who to drop. I just don't want to drop Margot Robbie, which I'm sure is like laughable for some people, but I just think like, man, she is great in Barbie. And I still think Barbie is like a top contender.
I have Annette and Sandra both in.
So you don't have Margot in though.
No, I haven't had her since like August.
I know, that's the difference. I'm just not going to drop Margot yet. I just think like, I can't imagine her not getting in if the movie is like a top 5 movie. And Sandra Huller,
I just think it's kind of like, I don't know. Like, I think the other, like, she's obviously like the lead of the movie. But I do feel like as much as maybe she'll get #1 votes from, Barbie stans like you're not a voter, but you know what I mean? Yeah. I think she'll also get like similar, like, 4 and 5 slot votes too. I've been on Annette. So my other thing is that I don't feel good about having so many acting nominees from Best Picture nominees.
Right. We've talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So right now, from my picks, my predictions, I only have 2 acting nominees from a movie that I'm not predicting to get into Best Picture, and that's Annette Bening and Jodie Foster, both from the same movie. Not yet. And I feel like there will be more, but at this point, I don't really know who those people are, And so that's why I've had Annette and also Jodie. And then I think also perhaps to Annette's benefit is like that category is pretty young skewing of the top contenders. And I feel like she'll have a whole demo to herself as an elder stateswoman.
Right. I actually think that's very true. And with Sandra, I was just like, I just think Barbie is stronger. And I was like, I'm like a little concerned about Anatomy of Fall getting in now. I only have it in because I took it out. I didn't have it in for director. I had Sandra picture and I had screenplay, and now I only have screenplay. And I'd like to be proven wrong, but I just think that it just seems like there's slightly less of a reason for a voter who's like, I don't want to watch this stuff or whatever to watch the, you know what I mean? Like if it's a submission, maybe you're going to pay attention to it more. And I know that Neon will give it a big push, and like it's obviously already out now, I think, in like limited release certainly or whatever. And it's a great watchable movie, like we said, certainly more watchable than Zone of Interest. Not a knock on Zone of Interest, but
I feel like it's just kind of a wash. Like the whole, it wasn't the submission. I mean, like it's a Cannes winner, it's like, I think that's kind of...
I just would be bucking history, it seems like, which doesn't mean it can't happen. History is meant to be broken, right? Like things that happen are meant to not continue to happen. So it could easily happen, but it would be like incredibly rare for it to happen based on what we've seen in the last like 25
well,
years.
Also now there are 10 slots, so
true. That's true.
But yeah, like I think it's I think it's that it's like basically almost half in English helps it.
Yes, I think that's true. And like we said, it's like a TV, it's like an HBO show. So that's great. All of that makes it really watchable. But I also wonder if that'll help, like that'll hurt it in terms of passion. We could do Timothy's next question here was Zone of Interest, which I've been reticent to put in because I was like, who wants to watch this? When you were rightly saying like the people who love it are going to say it's like a #1, right? And it'll have like a ton of support. And I don't know if Anatomy of Fall would have that same kind of support. But anyway, here Timothy's for Zone of Interest says, I feel like it's going to be the little love of the Oscars to show that they're hip. Diving Bell and the Butterfly, Triangle of Sadness, etc., especially with the director's branch. Thoughts? Now you have Jonathan Glazer in the whole time, and I just put him in too. So there you go.
I don't have Jonathan. I want him to put him.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Oh,
I did. I took him out. I don't even know who I replaced him with, but it's kind of like Best Actor for me where I have too many people and I don't know.
I put him in and I dropped Alexander Payne, who I had in 5th.
Like that's who I have in 5th too. But I've also had him since I think when we did these in March. I feel like
you did.
I need to stick with him.
And
I
like
guess
we
I
said,
drop Justine Trier.
right. You
Because
don't
I'm
have
not gonna drop the top 3, like Nolan, Marty, and Yorgos.
so I have Greta Gerwig and you don't have her in.
No, but that's another option for me too.
So I have Nolan, Greta Gerwig, Yorgos, Martin Scorsese, and Jonathan Glazer now. I dropped Alexander Payne because I was like, even though they love the movie, I'm also like, I think these other filmmakers all have probably, I just feel like, again, in a close race, like, I don't know if Alexander Payne would be a number 1 for a lot of people. And I actually could see all these other people being number 1s for some members of the branch. And you probably don't need a lot of number 1s to get in based on the amount of people in the branch.
No, it's a very insular branch. But like I do think that's one of my issues, or not issues, but like one of my problems with choosing someone is that like there are so many people here where you would assume have that type of passion to get in. So I know some people are also predicting, just the solo director nom for Glazer and not picture.
I put it for picture because like you've said, I think the people who love it are going to say it's like a number 1 movie.
Yeah.
And don't need a lot of people to say it's a number 1 movie to get it in, basically.
Like that's we got a trailer for that yesterday, was it? Or Monday? Yes. I don't know. This week.
And
I think they did a good job cutting that trailer to.
Yeah, it's a great trailer. And I think it's an impossible, it's not a consensus movie by any means, but it's also an impossible movie to dislike. Like I don't dislike it. I think
it's just kind of like a hard sit.
Yeah, the one thing I would say to its credit is it's only like an hour and 40 minutes probably, so it's not like overly long, which is helpful when the material is so difficult. But I think it is a great achievement, and I really think it could get in both picture now and director based on what I've seen. So
yeah, like I want to put him back in. Like I want to put Coleman back into actor, but I can't. So
maybe 6 slots next year. Last question from Timothy Joyce, who says Napoleon. I feel like it may be the coda. All Quiet on the Western Front, $1 million baby of the season, meaning coming in late and kicking ass. Thoughts? Joyce, we got a new Napoleon trailer moments ago.
Just like at the same time as Ferrari.
Watch them both.
Yeah. I would say a Napoleon better trailer.
Napoleon trailer kicks ass. I was like, fuck yeah. Let's go, Ridley. I'm in.
This is like, I just love like old school historical epic Ridley. This is just like so old school vibes.
It looked great. Joaquin Phoenix is doing deadpan Napoleon, completely detached.
Yes. Great take.
Vanessa Kirby is just already unhinged. She has like 2 line readings in the trailer, and I was like, this is awesome. Maybe she could get in. I really think she could get in.
You put her in?
No, I didn't put her in, but I'm like, I think people will be right now. I don't think anybody really has her in. Let me look where she is in the odds.
Does anyone have Napoleon in anywhere?
I bet you some people do. I mean, she's like 100 to 1 in supporting actress. She's behind many people, including Eric Alexander, Sandra Huller for The Zone of Interest, Rosamund Pike. So, like, not really being widely predicted, but I think she could maybe get in if the movie. And I think while I don't have it in a lot of the tech stuff, and this is a tough year for it in terms of like crafts because so many of the big movies are big crafts movies, I still think it can maybe surprise and get in a couple of places. I don't have it in anywhere, but the trailer is great.
Like, yeah, for sure. Really like costumes.
Good. Yeah. Production design or something, right?
It was a good trailer for it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's like its lateness, I guess, would help it at all. And
it could, I guess, if it's like it's tough with the late ones. If it's not good, it's gonna get killed. Right?
Yeah, I think it needs like good word of mouth. And it's, like there's so many like question marks right now about it because it's been hidden away.
It definitely has not been widely screened at all. And then also I've been not unimpressed, but I would say like when the lead Ridley stuff is the 4-hour version is going to be great.
Yeah, like he's already talking about the 4-hour cut. Not going to be the one that's released.
That seems like not the best. That's not the best, I would just say. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm excited to see the movie. I can't wait. But like, if you're already like, this movie's fine, but the 4-hour version, now that's the shit.
Yeah, watch that one. The
Like,
one that I
that's
watched, please.
like, okay, well, okay, but the trailer's awesome. And then the Ferrari trailer too, Joyce, that closed New York Film Festival last week.
Yes. A good trailer.
Yeah,
You
neither
know,
one of us got to see it.
no, I couldn't make that one.
We're
But
working on seeing it.
it doesn't come out for another 2 months. It's
I've
fine.
heard Michael Mann fans absolutely love it. And then
Of course they do. The man heads.
the man heads love it. And then the people who aren't man heads were a little more mixed. But a couple of people I talked to were very, very high on Penelope Cruz supporting actress.
Which you already knew from Venice. So
But I don't have her in.
I have her in the Globes. I could totally see her being like a Globes only thing or a Globes and SAG only thing. So what did you think of Adam Driver's accent this time?
I wanted more, hey, it's a me, Mario.
You wanted more Gucci?
Gucci. I wanted more Gucci. Yeah. But I heard it's a lot like
who's the next Italian he's gonna play?
I was watching, you know, it's so funny. I was watching the other day. I just put it on for about 20 minutes. I was like, let me put silence on Martin Scorsese, just a light watch. And I was watching on my phone too. I was like, just as Marty intended.
Why?
Just I was sitting here and I was like, what if I put it on? And he does like a Spanish accent in that. And it's like not far, very much dissimilar from Adam Driver's Italian accent. I was just like, who decided Adam Driver should do accents?
This is why, you know, I mean, really talked about this with like Gucci when he's like, I don't, or like Last Duel, really, like it's like I don't give a fuck about accents, like who cares?
And we see in the Napoleon trailer, Joaquin has no accent, he's just talking like
I love it so much.
And Vanessa Kirby's just talking like Vanessa Kirby, and it looks great. Joyce, here's an email from Harold and Maude, our old friend, emailed us at slugfest@goldderby.com. Hi, Chris and Joyce. I know I haven't sent an email in a while, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this. What I find to be very bizarre this season is how very few people are making the case for Willem Dafoe winning Best Supporting Actor for Poor Things, considering how I think that film can probably win Best Picture, and he has a lot of screen time and makeup on. The Academy hasn't proved to be very nice to him over the years, but I think he could maybe gain some traction against RDJ, who has a great narrative of his own and is worthy, but I don't believe he's giving an undeniable performance by Oscar standards. Joyce, this feels like music to your ears, because yesterday when we were talking after American Fiction, you were very much Team Dafoe.
I was. Yeah, I saw Poor Things last week, and I feel like I prefer Willem to Mark Ruffalo of the supporting dudes who are being named as possible nominees. I feel like I think both are great. I love Ruffalo in it. But I kind of feel like the praise for him is maybe because people didn't realize he's funny.
Yes.
Like he is fucking hilarious in the movie.
So funny. Like fall down laughing funny.
But I loved Willem, and I think it's a very emotional role and performance, and it really obviously he's the scientist who reanimates Emma Stone, and the whole story, that arc really comes full circle in the end, and he has, you know, just kind of like great moments throughout the film. Like he's not forgotten once she goes off frolicking around the world with Mark Ruffalo. You know, so I feel like his performance is perhaps more like heart tugging, I guess. And then like Mark's character just kind of disappears, like his final scene, you know. And I have both of them getting in. I do have Mark higher. I don't have either of them winning. I still have RDJ in first, but I would not be surprised if Willem won, I guess. I also feel like a lot of people aren't really excited about the prospect of RDJ winning.
I don't think they are, at least not normies. I don't know if the industry, I mean, the industry maybe.
Well, I'm not talking about the industry. I mean, like film Twitter, like a lot of people are just kind of, because I feel like this kind of, the narrative for him developed when the reactions for Oppenheimer were first came out in July, and it was like RJ is great and blah blah blah. Because before that, a lot of the talk was about Matt Damon, and then it became like, oh, this is like a great moment for REJ because it's like he's done with Marvel, now he's like acting again in like real movies, and then he said like this was like the best movie he's ever been in. So then I think that's how we all started predicting him to win, right? Because before that it was Robert De Niro, right, in first place.
Yes.
And I feel like a lot of people who are maybe not as into his performance in Oppenheimer, or like don't want this to come true, don't want him to win.
I also think there's obviously I think Ryan Gosling would have the film Twitter vote.
Yes, for sure.
Or Ruffalo. So I think he's like in third, but I do think he's so good in it. I put in Sterling K. Brown from American Fiction, Joyce, which you knew I would.
Yes, you already said this yesterday. Yes.
Put him in for supporting actor. I took out Matt Damon finally, and I could see Willem Dafoe getting in clearly. But I think if American Fiction is like as big as I would imagine, I think he could get in. But I would be surprised if Willem Dafoe won, only because I do think even if people are higher on him than Ruffalo, like if you're not unique to this, right? And obviously Harold and Maude wasn't either. I just think he's still too good to like. I think they would split their votes. I don't know. I don't think it would be like.
I think it would need to be. He would either need to just sweep, or it would need to be like a divided race, right? Where it seems like they don't really have like a runaway favorite at all,
Right.
So.
Let's see. Next up, we got an email from Beth. Hi, Chris and Joyce. Thank you for being open to questions. I've been enjoying your show for about a year or so I can't claim longevity. A year's pretty good, Beth.
Yeah.
But I will certainly continue to watch as I learned so much from your analysis. You remind me of Siskel and Ebert's PBS show sneak previews from back in the 70s. They were how I learned as a kid what to look for in a good movie. This relates to the topic of my question. I've been looking forward to The Holdovers since the trailer dropped. The storyline is very close to my heart, which is a big part of the anticipation. However, I've come to love Alexander Payne's writing and directing as the reason enough to see any of his films. He reminds me so much of the person that I consider the most underrated yet overrated writer-director of the 60s and late 80s, Blake Edwards. Edwards' films, when they were on, were direct hits, both at the box office and with critics. I feel that Blake Edwards fell victim to his own success, and then Hollywood's golden boy because it became virtually impossible for him to have bigger hits in successive movies when its predecessors did so well commercially. So what will The Holdovers have to do to bring the Alexander Payne to the forefront and remind audiences that the kind of storytelling he does is so incredibly difficult because he makes it look so simple? Thank you, Beth. Well, Beth, bad news because I already took him out of Best Director. I don't know. I think this movie will do really well with the Academy, though.
Same. I mean, I still have, so I don't think he produced it either, right? He didn't write it, but we talk about how people will think he wrote it. He did not write it.
I'm reading an article today on a brand I will not name, but a very prominent brand, because Alexander Payne went viral this week for making some not great comments, I would say, but I don't know how out of context they were taken, but the headlines didn't look very good. But anyway, in this, it says, The Holdovers writer-director Alexander Payne discussed the state of the film industry while at the Lumiere Film Festival. He didn't write the movie.
No, but yes, like I said, people will think he wrote it.
Yes.
And yeah, he did not produce it either. So the only nomination he can get is directing.
So I took him out because I just think, like we said, I think it's a very insular branch. He's obviously been nominated, I think 4 times. Is that right? Or 3 times? What has he been nominated for director?
Right.
All
against Marty.
Against Marty. So it would be another one of those. But I was just like, I just think there's so much more. I think there might be more passion for those other directors. I think this is a really tough year in director. And I think he could be very well liked and the movie will be loved by a lot of people. But I just don't think there's going to be the passion to get him in.
But I also kind of feel like they just kind of like him. Like he was nominated for Sideways, which was like, we knew it wasn't winning Best Picture. Like that was the classic, you're not winning picture or director, but you're going to win screenplay. And then like kind of the same thing with Descendants, although that wasn't as successful in the end. And then Nebraska was his last one. So yeah, so I kind of feel like he still has his
he does
friends and fans.
He does
for sure. And I do think the movie will play well with the industry.
I think it'll play really well with the industry.
So, but I don't think if he got in, I don't think he's winning.
I definitely don't think he's winning. So maybe next time, Beth. But thank you for.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he already has 2 Oscars, you know, not in directing, but he has 2 Oscars.
Let's see. This one's from Joe. Emailed us at slugfest@goldderby.com. Love your show. Been an Oscar watcher since I was a kid. 1989, the Snow White disaster year. Having watched Killers of the Flower Moon and loving it, I find it difficult to believe that Lily Gladstone has a shot at winning in lead. Supporting would have obviously been a lock. Obviously, the studio knows this. So the question is it the win or the integrity of the nomination that's more important? It's from Joe.
I mean, I think that's a question for her that she obviously cannot answer right now. So
I'd also say, while I don't disagree, we've talked about this. Like it definitely is. I understand her decision to go for lead, but the character as it's presented in the movie feels like a supporting character.
Yeah, if you were to give me the shooting script for what became the final cut of this film, and I just read it before this was cast or anything, I would still assume that Molly, the character, was supporting. You know, I totally understand. It's the situation where Molly is the most prominent female character of the film, right?
Yes, she's the lead female character for sure.
Yeah, she's the lead female character who is married to the male lead, who is the lead character of the film, but her character is not the lead character of the film. Like, I don't totally fine that she's going lead. Like, that's who cares. But I guess, like, I mean, like, I don't know. I like maybe they just want the nomination and lead. Like, obviously, it'll be historic. I don't know.
I guess I would. The only thing I disagree with that is that with Joe's, I don't think would not cross her off to win though. Even in
I think she can win. I don't think this is. I don't think if they just love her performance, they'll just vote for her. Like, they don't hold these types of things like screen time or like narrative presence against actors like film Twitter does.
I agree.
You know, when people take such a hard line on category fraud, they don't give a shit about that at all.
I don't think they do. And I again, like what we've seen, like a lot of industry people seemingly love her in it and are like, this is one of the best performances I've ever seen.
Yeah, this kind of reminds me of last year when, you know, like in the days leading up to nominations, people were like, what if the Academy revolts and nominates Michelle Williams in
I think there were some pundits who predicted her in supporting.
Yeah. And I'm like, they're not gonna do that. Like, they were like, people were citing Lakeith, but that was such a unique situation that probably will never happen again. Like, that was just such an open slot, you know, and no one cared about anyone else like Jared Leto and the little things. So, but like, if they just love the performance, the person, whatever aspect, like they'll just nominate it, or like the person in the category they want. They're not going to take a stance to be like, I love her so much, but I think she's supporting.
No.
So I'm going to nominate her in supporting. Like, I think Kate Winslet was nominated in lead for The Reader because they just liked The Reader. Like, that made Best Picture. You know, they clearly liked it more than Revolutionary Road. So
I haven't seen The Reader. Joyce, this one's from Gina, who wrote to us at slugfest@goldderbies.com, goldderby.com. She emailed us previously. So she says, hey, Joyce and Chris, I want to thank you for your response to my previous email. I think it was about Coleman Domingo and Rustin, Joyce, to remember. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for Coleman, though the AMPTP at the time of sending this email did make things more complicated now that they have decided to walk out of negotiations with SAG-AFTRA. But I'm hoping for a turnaround soon enough. Well, hope springs eternal, I guess, right? You know, that's good. Otherwise, 2 questions. I've seen people push back against the idea of 10 nominees in the Best Director category based on the notion that, quote, anybody can get in, for lack of better words. And while I see where they're coming from, I would have to disagree. While I respect directors like Scorsese, Spielberg, Nolan, and etc., I always get a feeling that directors of color or newer, underrated directors in general, excluding international ones as of late, though there are exceptions, get naturally pushed out as a result. That and having only 5 slots for director when there are 10 for picture, screenplay, and leading and supporting acting feels pretty uneven. What are your thoughts on a potential Best Director extension at the Oscars? And hypothetically speaking, if this year got 10 nominees, which films do you think will benefit the most? You're definitely against this, Joyce. I know.
Yeah, I'm 5 slots for everything.
So what I would say is I also agree 5 slots for director. The one thing I would add, it would be a first-time filmmaker Oscar. I think would be really cool.
Like DGA.
Kind of.
No,
I mean,
I'm for fewer things.
I would do a first-time filmmaker, especially now, because I think there are so many exciting first-time filmmakers, first-time feature filmmakers, whatever. But I mean, like this year, you would have like Cord Jefferson and Celine Song in that category, right? At least, right? Blitz Bazawule, would that count? I mean, like, is it his first major? It's his first major feature that he does. The Blackest King.
They'll just have to come up with rules for whatever they define that as.
Right.
But I mean, I just feel like the adding of things just kind of lessens the prestige you want to confer onto what you're giving out.
Yeah, I think I don't think it's like, I like the DGA first time filmmaker feature directing award. I think that's good. And I think that would be a great Oscar category because that would really open up a lot of things. Now, granted, then people could complain that, oh, we're only getting nominated in there instead of the actual best directing prize and blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure there would be a lot of discourse if this happened, but I do think that would be pretty cool because that's a way to also, it would be like giving an Oscar for, the idea of giving a short film Oscar, basically, right? It's like you're elevating these new voices or people who are like not like Spielberg and Scorsese. And you could kind of do that again with the first time filmmaker award too, if you did that. And the fact that the DGA already has it gives like a kind of like a baseline a little and like a template to follow. So like based on those nominees in the past, I don't think it's like embarrassing. It wouldn't be like,
no, I just don't think it would ever happen. And so, but like I agree that like the directing branch is very clubsy.
Yeah.
It's like you got to be in the club.
So then,
or know people in the club.
And then the other part of Gina's question this year, I feel like would actually be an easy one. It would make our lives so much easier to have 10 directing, which makes it less fun.
Like it's like there's the people in the back half who I could easily put into the top 5, but
so the top 5 right now are Nolan, Scorsese, Lanthimos, Greta Gerwig, and Jonathan Glazer. Then it's Alexander Payne, Justine Triet, Celine Song, Bradley Cooper, and Blitz Bazawule, and Cord Jefferson in 11th.
Yeah, like that would be a totally legit 10. You know,
so that'd be pretty cool. But I like the 5 because you have to make choices
10 with picture. So
and then number 2 here from Gina. I'm having this feeling that we're not going to see sweeps in any of the categories this year, like some people are predicting, hoping. I feel like this is one of those years where multiple people in their respective categories have a chance of getting something, even if it doesn't lead to an Oscar. This is obviously a case at the Golden Globes, but I do mean elsewhere too. Could you see a scenario where one of these acting categories turns out like the Best Actress race in 2021? My gut is saying Best Actor right now, but I could be wrong.
I mean, I'm always for splits, you know this. So I think like actor, I think it really kind of depends on what the Globes do, because I do kind of feel like that's how all the rubber stamping begins, really.
Right.
So if they give it to Bradley Cooper, I can see him sweeping, honestly. But if they don't, then and actress will be interesting because like Emma Stone is in comedy and most of the other people are in drama.
We talked about sweepers last week. I think we both said like Downey would maybe be the one, but even though Best Actress is so competitive, if it ended up being like none of us, a lot of people have Emma Stone winning, and she would be a very deserving winner. But I'm also like reticent to think that can happen based on like how the category, like last year at this time, I would have obviously said Cate Blanchett would have won. That said, if like she becomes like a steamroller, I think she's actually positioned to be the best one because she could win at SAG. She easily is going to win a Golden Globe. And of all these contenders, like I feel like BAFTA would be she would absolutely win at BAFTA based on like the movie.
Yeah.
And so she feels like she could plus win like at least one of the major critics awards, maybe 2. So it feels like she could actually be a sweeper, but I'm also not sure she's going to even win. So who knows? But
yeah, like it's like truly like an unbelievable performance in Poor Things from her. And yeah, I think she can easily sweep, but I agree. I also can see it not happening. I think she has the Globe obviously on lock. I think she can win Critics' Choice, especially because they didn't give it to her last time for La La Land. They gave it to Natalie Portman. So, and yeah, like SAG, I can see her winning. It's a very accessible performance, and I think it's the type of role that any actor would dream of getting. Like the stuff she gets to do with that role in that movie, and just really playing a character from like beginning of life to not end of life, but you go through the character's growth, the character's reborn basically, and just the choices she makes. And you know what, not everyone can do what she did in this role. So
we talked about this a little bit. I was like, we didn't even talk about Poor Things though, and this is not a knock on Margaret Qualley at all, but when Margaret Qualley's in the movie, right, doing kind of the same thing, I'm like, it actually made the Emma Stone performance better, because while Margaret Qualley's fine, Emma Stone is like,
well, yeah, and also Margaret's character is supposed to like be like subpar basically, like
yes,
because
so she's
like
playing
the next woman that Willem
yes.
reanimates.
She's playing a copy of a copy basically, but at the
yeah,
same
it's
time, like,
multiplicity.
but I do feel like that the way she does that is still not as good as the way Emma did it.
Yeah, purposefully, but yes, you do see like the differences
yes.
in there and all. So yeah, I think she can win SAG, and we've said before, like SAG is probably the hardest for Lily to win because it's such a subtle performance.
Yeah.
But again, if she's just like the favorite all season, then she could probably win that too.
Or so what if Annette wins SAG?
She could, yeah.
Good.
So I don't know. And then like supporting actress is like the Wild West.
Completely. We have a few more emails there, Joyce. This one's from Sean. Emailed us at slugfest@goldderby.com. Dear Christopher and Joyce, longtime listener, first-time emailer. No award season would be complete without the Gold Derby show. I'm wondering if you think Poor Things has what it takes to win Best Picture. We saw last year with Everything Everywhere All at Once, as well as The Shape of Water back in 2018, that the Academy isn't afraid to vote for so-called weird films. This year, many films in the Best Picture race have strong female leads, such as Barbie, Poor Things, Anatomy of Fall, Past Lives, and even co-leads in Maestro or Killers of the Flower Moon. Right now, it seems like Poor Things has the most critical acclaim of these films, and while Oscar voters are not critics, I'm left wondering if the film, including the love for Emma Stone and Yorgos Lanthimos, can ride its acclaim all the way to Best Picture. Do you have any thoughts about this?
I think I have it in third right now.
I believe I also have it in third. I do think it can win Best Picture, though.
Yes. I'm not gonna go there yet because it's not out. And I think it really kind of depends on the audience reaction to it. Obviously it's gotten great reviews and reactions from festivals as expected, and it is a great film. Yeah, I think it would need to just kind of have that passion behind it, and I can see it igniting that type of passion too. And also when it premiered at Venice, there were a lot of comparisons to Barbie because it's kind of like the B-side of Barbie.
Yes.
So I could see it kind of stealing some of Barbie's thunder as well.
I have Oppenheimer still in first.
Same.
And I have American Fiction in second. And then Poor Things in third.
This is you putting American Fiction in second. This is the 1 year anniversary of you putting She Said in second. A year ago, this is what you did this time.
She Said is a great movie. Here's what I'll say about American Fiction. We talked about this, I think, when we did our column, the first column of when we kicked off our award season here for Oscars. There's not where is the underdog? Where is the movie that's like Everything Everywhere or Coda or whatever that people would want to root for that also says something, right? And I think American Fiction is clearly, of these movies, that movie. So I don't necessarily know if it's going to win, and it would be a long way for it to win. But I definitely think it's a very, very strong movie, especially if you're looking for like a movie people are going to root for. That could also be Poor Things, certainly. But American Fiction is like that little movie that could, I feel like, is kind of like that.
Yeah, because Poor Things is a grander movie just on scale and scope.
And that could actually help it win too, because I was like, I actually think it'll have like a lot of international support too, and certainly like a lot of below the line support. It's going to get nominations all over the place. So I think like people will really love it, and the entire Academy would be really behind it. So I do think that makes it good.
Yeah,
But
I can see like Emma winning without the movie winning. Like I don't think it needs to be a package deal.
No, I agree. So. I agree. Especially because I think it's going to get like 10 nominations. So,
yeah.
And it should win at least one, if not two, other Oscars besides Emma.
Yeah, like it could clean up below the line. Yeah. So, and it can also win adapted screenplay. Like that's a tough category too. Did you put American Fiction in first?
I did.
Like you said you were going to.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. This is your American Fiction stan account right now. What will you stan next week?
Well, I haven't seen a lot.
You'll be back on Flower Moon.
I saw it a third time, Joyce. It was fucking great. Oh my God.
You're going to put Leo in first.
Lily Gladstone all the way, baby. Just like, that's it. Guarantee. That was fucking amazing. Scorsese is a god. What else we got here? Let me see. We've gone on for so long. I have a few left though. This one I think is interesting. Let's do this, and then I have like 3 or 4 quick hitters that I'll be able to take care of. This
Love a lightning round.
This is from Jordan. This is a little long, but I do think it's interesting. When discussing Oscars and film awards with others, a phrase that gets on my nerves is comedy performances never win, which is incredibly untrue. There have been many comedic performances that have won acting awards. Jack Nicholson is as good as it gets. Whoopi Goldberg in Ghost, Kevin Kline in A Fish Called Wanda, Maggie Smith in California Suite, John Gielgud in Arthur, Marissa Tomei and My Cousin Vinny, Octavia Spencer in The Help, Brad Pitt in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and to an extent, all 3 winners last year in Everything Everywhere All at Once. I personally felt Robin Williams should have been nominated for Mrs. Doubtfire, and Jim Carrey should have won for The Truman Show. Diane Keaton's performance in Something's Gotta Give was my personal favorite in the category that year, and Jack Nicholson should have been nominated for Batman. Comedic performances tend to win when they are in supporting, because maybe it's felt like the weight of the movie isn't on their shoulders, and they don't need a dramatic arc like the main character does. My question is, this year we could have 3 comedy performances win in the same year. Emma Stone for Poor Things, Ryan Gosling or Mark Ruffalo in supporting actor, and Danielle Brooks in Color Purple. When people say comedic performances never win, is a small-minded view. Comedy performances sometimes win. That's Jordan.
Well, I would say that the last sentence is true. They sometimes win. And we all know, like, everyone's just being hyperbolic when we say they never win. It's just that, like, 95% of the time they don't win.
I also think there's a difference in people's minds between, like, when you say I agree.
Comedy, I think, you know, comedy, I mean, like pure comedy.
Yes.
Right. And a lot of these performances he mentioned have strong comedic elements to it.
I think that's the difference.
It's like inherently dramatic, or there's a dramatic hook to the performance or the movie itself. Like, where you can kind of like overlook the comedy, or it's like a plus for them. Like
Will Ferrell for me should have won for Elf. That's a comedic performance.
Like that's a comedy. Like I think Ryan Gosling and Barbie, like comedy movie, comedy performance.
Emma Stone in Poor Things, hilarious, but I don't know if that's a full comedy movie.
No, because it's funny, and she gets laughs, for sure, but there is still a lot of heft and drama to her performance.
Yes.
So
I also think when people think comedy, they think like, you know, like a studio comedy, or like, yes, you know, not, and this is like not a drama that's funny, or like a comedy drama, you know, like these are a lot of these dramedy qualify, I think, for that. A dramedy, almost like a dramedy, Joyce. We could have, though, I mean, Emma Stone is a funny performer, and certainly I would say, like, in the vein of Michelle Yeoh's same kind of level of comedy, right? In quotes.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know much about Color Purple, Joyce, but is Daniel Brooks playing a character that is super funny? I'm sure there's laugh elements in it based on the trailer. But
I've never seen the musical, so same. I can't, I have no opinion.
I would say Devon Joy Randolph for Holdovers could be considered comedy-ish.
She has some great like one-liners.
Yes.
And zingers. Like I guess maybe it's her last line in a movie. I just chuckled at it, but she also has dramatic material.
Really dramatic. And then Gosling or Ruffalo for Barbie or Poor Things, respectively, are comedy performances. Though I would say De Niro is also hilarious in Kills of the Flower Moon in a different way.
So funny.
Even though he's like playing a dark, murdering psychopath, basically.
Can you, when you see it again this weekend, can you transcribe the scene outside the house when he's in the car? De Niro's in the car. He's like about to leave town, and he's like castigating Leo about not doing the thing.
Any of this getting here? Is any of this making it through? I'll be
I think about it in my head and I laugh.
I'll be curious to see if people laugh at the movie, because I do think it's funny, but you're also not wanting to laugh because it's about genocide, which is maybe
it is a funny movie. It's kind of, it's like Goodfellas, except it's like about a real life historic.
Which our pal, the Osage language consultant, was right in saying maybe it's not, maybe it should have been different, right? Or for Osage people, based on that. Okay, lightning round, Joyce. This one's near and dear to my heart, so I was excited to read it. Karina wrote us at slugfest@cultderby.com. Chris, how is Taylor Swift the Eras Tour? Are you sad it's not eligible for the Oscars? And do you think it could win if it were? Joyce, I'm holding up.
You saw that? Wow! Did you get the bucket?
We didn't get the bucket. We did get the cup. The buckets were out.
Have you? What are you using the cup for? Just as a cup, or as like a pen holder?
It's a pretty big cup. It's about yay big, and it's sitting on our counter right now.
You also, this was like your appetizer before the killer on Saturday.
So Saturday afternoon, whole family. We went to a local AMC theater, got the whole experience. Taylor Swift the Eras Tour. It's a 3-hour ordeal. It's like the Killers of Flower Moon for Taylor Swift fans. Actually still 45 minutes shorter than Killers of Flower Moon, but close
it's
to
like
3
just
hours.
shy of 3 hours.
It was the loudest movie I've ever heard.
So did your theater have, like, flashlights and sync? Did you participate in a circle dance on the floor?
No circle dancing in our theater, but it was crowded, not sold out. But the theater, I think, was running it every hour. So like that probably helps. And the girls in front of us, there was like a group of young girls. They were like holding up their phones or like kind of dancing and singing. The best part is because it's so fucking loud. Like you could just sing literally top volume and you wouldn't even hear it because the music in the movie was so loud. So I didn't really hear other people singing, even if I was singing along, or my daughter or my wife. But it was a great time at the movies.
Would it win if it were eligible?
I don't think so, but I do think it would get nominated for something if it were. I was going to make the case for best sound. I actually think the sound is like incredible mix. And I was going to say, if it's a fake documentary or whatever, it could maybe get in, even though that branch is crazy.
Fake documentary.
Well, I think the Critics' Choice Awards, didn't they put it down for a documentary or something?
Yeah. That's their documentary awards. They're separate.
Right.
They have the documentary awards and the super awards. They have
so they got her in there. I would say, like, I'm not the biggest concert movie fan. Like, I know people will be like, oh, The Last Waltz, or like, Stop Making Sense. I'm like, you know what it is? It's a concert. So if you like the music from the band, you'll like I think that people often like I see this, like I saw people critiquing the Taylor movie. Maybe it was honestly maybe Richard Brody or I don't even know who it was, but it was like, it doesn't really say anything about her or like this. And I'm like, do any of these movies, like, I know people love The Last Waltz. I've seen it. I do love it too. But I'm like, is it really saying anything? Are these movies really saying anything? Or they're just like, here's this great music, like, watch it. You know what I mean?
It's a concert film, and it's like.
So I think you're projecting your own, like, the music maybe says something, but I also think Taylor Swift's music says something. So to me, I thought it was really good, and I enjoyed watching it. Would see it again whenever it's streaming.
I'll probably never see it, so.
But just great. I really loved going through the eras with Taylor. It was a lot of fun.
What's your favorite era?
Well, it's tough to figure out. I was trying to think. I love Reputation. Love 1989. Let me look on my phone. I'm going to open up my phone because I'm going to look at the.
I'm surprised you have not ranked her eras.
It's tough. I just think it's like a lot of. So she opens with Lover. This is spoilers for Eras Tour. I don't want to get yelled at. She opens with Lover, then does a few from the first album, or the second album, I guess. Then Evermore, Reputation, Speak Now, which got the short end of the stick, only 2 songs in the show and only 1 in the movie.
How
Red
do you
is.
feel about the songs that she cut from the movie?
I mean, I think that's fine. Honestly, people were mad about that, but
Yes, they
I
were.
get it. I've heard the songs. I really loved. What was the other? Folklore, great. 1989, great. And then the new one is great too. So I just like all her eras, I guess. But I did like the Reputation era. I thought that was pretty good. Or maybe Red, because they get all too well in Red.
I've never heard the 10-minute version, so
It's great. Can't get enough. Uh, next up, this one's from Caitlin Joyce, who emailed us at slugfest@goldderby.com. Who has seen Top Gun Maverick more times, you, Chris, or Timothy Chalamet?
he's seen it 8 times.
Man, the god Timothy! What a great week for Timothy Chalamet. There's an actor strike, and you know what? He's still making headlines, which I love. He interviewed Martin Scorsese. He said he saw Top Gun 8 times.
Listen, the issue is going to come out when it comes out. So
He got Tom Cruise emailing him about a dance man and a stunt man and
he's
training.
inspired by Austin Butler. Come on.
Man, I gotta say, I love Timothy Chalamet. I just love him. I think he's like really fun. And I watched, the other trailer we saw at Taylor Swift was Wonka, which I'm like, you know what? Let's go. Bring the fam. Future Golden Globe nominee, Timothy Chalamet for Wonka. I seen Top Gun Maverick. Let's look at Letterboxd, Joyce, where I'm on there.
Oh God, you log that too.
I log everything. I'm on Letterboxd at Chris J. Rosen. Follow me there for all my thoughts. Let's see. I've seen this movie 4 times.
Wow, only half.
So Timothy Chalamet's seen it more. I saw it on May 10th, 2022, May 31st, 2022, November 4th, 2022, and January 24th, 2023.
Are you going to see it again before the year's over?
I don't think so. I just have so much I want to watch. He says as he's about to see like Killers of the Flower Moon for a 3rd time.
Wow, I can't believe he's seen it more times than you.
He has. I don't believe he's seen it 8 times.
Well, he also said this was all during Dune too, and then he bought out a whole theater to the cast and crew to see it. And now he's best friends with Tom Cruise. So,
and he's doing dancing. In old Hollywood, they would have teach you how to dance.
It's just like, I think we talked about this last year with Top Gun and how, it's basically like a metaphor for like, it's like, Tom Cruise is the last movie star and it's him. And then people talked about this when that first clip of him at Harris was released in, I guess, 2019, 4 years ago at Comic-Con, when it's just like, it's a metaphor for him being like, it's not today. Like, I'm not done yet. And it's like, now that he's like passing his words of wisdom and advice onto Timothy Chalamet, it's like, no one else is gonna make you do these things. So you have to learn all these tricks of the trade like they did in old Hollywood. I'm
excited. Like, Timothy could be like, he's a good guy to have, I think, as like the future Tom Cruise, right? I don't know.
Sure.
This one's a little newsy, Joyce. Daniel wrote in yesterday after this broke. We're recording this on Wednesday, Tuesday afternoon. This came in. Now that Bikeriders has been delayed, do you think it will be released in time for it to be considered for this award season? Or do you think other films will follow suit and be pushed in light of the actors' strike? So yeah, Bikeriders, Joyce.
Yeah, it was scheduled for December 1st.
Yeah.
And
I loved it. Saw it at Telluride.
Now if it doesn't come out this year, then you're one of the lucky ones who has seen it.
My 2024 best movies of the year list is already full up. I got that potentially and Hitman potentially, because I don't think that's coming out this year either.
Yeah, but that's not surprising. That was never scheduled for this year.
Hitman, great movie. Just great.
Well, so for Bikeriders, the streets say that they still want it out this year to qualify. So as I was saying before, like, so they could still do like the limited last week of December and then wide in January.
So I guess I could see that. That's obviously what they said, right? Like that was like in the THR piece and was like their exclusive or whatever. And like, clearly that's what they got from on background from the studio or whatever, New Regency or whoever said this. But I was just like, to pull it off the schedule so dramatically and to get those headlines, then to like 3 weeks from now be like, actually just kidding, we're going to put it out on December 25th or December 31st or whatever it is. It just seems not realistic to me, but I guess I wouldn't doubt that.
Yeah, I would say like they could just move the date then right now,
They would have just pushed it back.
Right. Because it like this move would make more sense had it happened like last month, when it's exactly. Like based on these reactions from Telluride, whatever, like we're gonna move it back 3 weeks. And now, the reason for the postponement is because of the actor strike.
And again,
they need the actors promoting this movie for it to be successful.
And that's what they say, right? But I'm like we said, there's a lot of these movies. Like, I don't like Daniel's asking what else we think is going to move. I think not a single thing is going to move.
No, I think, I feel like, like the movies that have moved already, like Dune and
Challengers.
Yeah. Poor Zendaya. They already moved. And I feel like that was months ago now. So it's like the studios already had the long view of it. And then there was, remember the questions about like Color Purple, is it going to move as well? And when the producer says like, no, we're staying. So I don't think any of those are moving. We've seen some move up, like Saltburn is coming out earlier now. Right. And then American Fiction moved back, but it's still coming out in December.
Again, I'm not to speak ill, or I'm not to doubt anybody's intentions, but I was like, based on Bikeriders is a great movie, but I don't think a lot of people had it high up on their predictions charts in any category.
No,
but I do think it's a movie that could do really well as a movie.
Yeah,
and
movies should just exist to exist and for people to watch and enjoy.
And so if Bikeriders ends up coming out in March, around the time Dune comes out, and Austin Butler is everywhere, and you've got all these great people in it, and they're able to promote it, and it's like gets another splashy relaunch at South by Southwest, where Jeff Nichols has had success before, and all these different things. All of a sudden, it's like a movie that people actually go and see. Maybe not necessarily for awards, but it's like a real movie that people want to see. So I would not be surprised if that ends up happening. That said, they say they want to get it out before the end of the year. And I guess if the actors strike, we're recording this on Wednesday, by some miracle, they get back to the table this week and then wrap everything up in a week.
Listen, Clooney and Ben, they want to talk to the SAG leadership. So
they just want to hear what's going on. They just want to check
what happened. How did things break down? We know why.
We just want to check in, see what's going on. I will say, last week when we recorded this, I felt so silly because we were like, oh man, it's been so great, and they're like not fighting with each other. And literally that night, it was just like, fuck you, no, fuck you, we're out, and that was it. I was like, okay.
I mean, listen, again, what I've been saying is like they have until basically the end of this month.
I get the sense that they're. I kind of think they won't get through. I kind of feel like now it's going to go into.
Well, January. It broke down real bad. Now we know, real bad.
I think it's going to be January now.
Yeah, like because like they're gonna all the suits. Time for the holidays. Go to Aspen.
Do you think if it goes in, when will the Oscars move, or will it move?
I mean, if it's resolved in January, I don't think it's going to move.
Okay.
So you could ask if any of the January award shows.
Do you think they're going to move? SAG would.
Well, SAG is in February. Okay. So still they have extra time.
Critics' Choice and
Critics' Choice, Globes, Emmys, Martin Luther King Day.
Emmys, they're not going to move again. Remember the Emmys, Joyce?
Love the Emmys.
Last question here. This one's a fun one, Joyce, because we were talking. American Fiction released a trailer this week. Great trailer, really fun, and the movie better than the trailer, I would say. That was my take. Yes. Here's Holly. Wrote to us at slugfest at goldderby.com. Hi, Chris and Joyce, big fan. Just finished watching the American Fiction trailer. I have to ask, why did we let Adam Brody have that hair in this movie?
Because first of all, Adam Brody is hilarious in this movie. He has 2 scenes, kills them, murders them completely. And the hair is befitting the character he plays.
Completely right. It's funny, if you've seen the trailer, you've actually seen Adam Brody's 2 scenes.
Yes, they're obviously longer in the movie, yes, but those are his 2 scenes.
But man, is he funny. And actually I won't spoil like anything about the movie because it doesn't come out, like we said, for 2 months basically. But man, the stuff with his character I found hilarious. And he's great with his dirty hair, his dirty, greasy, slicked hair.
Yeah, he's supposed to be like a sleazeball, basically. So
it's great.
But I understand, we don't want Seth Cohen looking like this, obviously. So
no. It definitely looked not great for Seth, but it's not the character. That's how he's a good. That's how you know he's a good actor.
He's willing to have that hair. So
So if you like these emails, you can email us at slugfest@goldderby.com. If I did not get to your email, and there are a lot I didn't get to, Joyce, because we had so many emails, and I will
We
promise
went as long as Killers of the Flower Moon.
it
right?
feels like we did,
So-
but I don't think we did. But if you emailed us, I promise you I'll read this at a later date. Not all of them though, but most of them. So keep on listening. And I guess Joyce will be back next week with my third time's a charm with Killers of the Flower Moon. And what else?
Yeah, why Killers of the Flower Moon will sweep. Like 12 for 12.
Joyce, let me tell you, Lily Gladstone clearly winning Best Actress, best performance.
He's gonna win. Like De Niro's gonna win his third. Marty's
I really think
gonna win
Leo can win too.
and
Second one.
screenplay.
I just think, yeah, that absolutely is going to happen. And let me tell you all
Thelma
the other
editing.
Thelma, amazing. Love her. Third Oscar for whatever.
Jack Fisk. Finally.
His
and her Oscars for Jack and Sissy. So
Scorsese winning. It's gonna be great. I'm just gonna go right through. All right. Well, we'll look forward to that then. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.